Hi, I'm Hebe and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this footstool. For this video you will need a board. The one I'm using is 40cm by 30cm and a 6mm MDF. Some foam. Here I'm using 7.5cm thick foam. The legs of your choice. Some felting. Some 2-ounce wadding, although 4 or 6 would also be fine. Some spray adhesive. A sharp kitchen knife. A hammer. A staple gun. Some 8mm staples, and a fabric for the bottom of your footstool. So the first thing you're going to want to do is think about what legs you're using on your footstool. The ones I'm using screw into the bottom of the footstool with an 8mm thread. So here you can see I've marked out 4 holes, 6cm in, and then I've hammered some T-nuts into these holes so that the legs will screw in, as you can see here. Some other legs use things like plates which you just screw onto the bottom so you don't have to drill the holes before you start, or some of them, maybe like Queen Anne legs, you have to screw in from the top side of your board. When you're using T-nuts like I am, it's important that you hammer them in from the top side of your board so that when you screw your leg in, as you can see here, it draws the T-nut into the board. So once you've decided what legs you're going to use, it's time to grab your board and your foam, and you can see here that I've already cut my foam to size, but if you haven't, that's fine, just grab your kitchen knife and cut your foam to the same size as your board. I'm then going to take my foam, and using the kitchen knife, I'm going to cut a 45-degree angle on all 4 sides of the foam. This doesn't have to be too neat, just we want to create a kind of dome shape for the footstool, but we're going to use some felting and the wadding to help us create this dome shape. So here, really, you just want to be getting rid of kind of the excess foam from the 4 sides. Next, grab your board, and using the contact spray adhesive, we're going to stick down the foam onto the board. Next, we're going to grab our felting and we're going to start building up the shape of the footstool. So filling in those edges to create that nice dome shape. The felting also helps to add an extra layer of comfort to the footstool, so it's not quite as hard as the foam. You can see here that I've used the spray adhesive to help hold some of the pieces in place. Always make sure that you can't fill any kind of hard lumps or gaps in your felting. You can also kind of tease it out or use little bits to fill in any gaps if you can. Once you're happy with the shape of your footstool, grab your wadding and cut out a piece that's going to fit nicely over your footstool. I'm just going to double check that I like the feel and the shape of my footstool before I flip it over. And then again, I'm just going to make sure that I'm happy with the positioning of all of these pieces. I'm then going to take my wadding and I'm going to staple the wadding securely in place on each side of the footstool. When I do this, I'm going to make sure that none of the felting is coming over onto the underside of the footstool. And then I'm going to check that none of my felting has moved and that I'm still happy with the shape of my footstool. If there's any bits you're unhappy with, you can kind of get in there and tease the wadding out or put some more felting in. It's just up to you what you think looks and feels nice. And then I'm going to take my stapler and I'm going to staple down the rest of the edges of the felting, although at this stage I'm not going to staple down the corners. Instead, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut off all of this excess wadding. At this stage, I want to try and make sure that there's not going to be too much bulk on the corners of the footstool, as this will make it really difficult to staple later on. So you can see here, I've cut off the excess wadding and now I'm just going to staple it down. I'm not going to worry at this stage too much about how neat this bit is, as I'm still going to put one more layer of wadding over the top. Do this to all four corners. So now you can see here that I've started to put on my second layer of wadding. With this layer, I'm going to make sure that everything's really smooth and that I've definitely got the shape I want, because I'm not going to put any more layers on top. So when I get to the corners, I'm going to cut off any excess, and then I'm going to fold it all in so it's nice and flat, and make sure that I'm pulling it all round so that it's flat all the way around and there's no creases or anything. When I get to the corners, to make sure to have a nice shape, I'm going to start by pulling in the wadding directly over the corner. You'll then see that I've got kind of two flaps either side. So again, I'm just going to cut away lots of the excess, and then I'm going to tease the wadding and pull it over so that it creates a nice rounded shape in the corner. This can be a little bit tricky, but just keep playing with it until you get a shape that you're happy with. Again, you're going to want to do this with all four corners. Now I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to cut away any excess wadding. I'm going to cut away as much as I can, because I really don't want to have any excess bulk or too much for my stapler to go to on the underside of the fabric. You can see here that I'm taking out some of the staples that I put in earlier as well. They're just not needed. I'm also going to use my hammer and just hammer in any staples that haven't quite fully gone in. Now you should have a footstool with the shape you're happy with, and it's time to get your main fabric and start doing the last layer. So the main thing you're going to want to think about when positioning your fabric is that the pattern is straight, and if you have a central design on it, that's going to be the middle of your footstool. So you can see here I've just centralised my fabric on my footstool, and now I've turned it over. And now I'm going to secure it by stapling each side in the middle. When doing this, you're always going to want to start by securing opposite sides and the centre of both of them, and make sure you have your fabric pulled nice and taut. This just means that you're not going to end up pulling your fabric and distorting the pattern, and it's going to make sure that it sits nice and straight on your footstool. So you can see here that I'm turning my footstool over and I'm just checking that it is going straight across and it's not diagonal or being warped or twisted. Then I'm going to take the sides and I'm going to do the same thing. Again, you can see here that I'm turning my footstool over and I'm just checking that the fabric's straight and taut enough. If you're not happy with how the fabric's sitting at this point, it's important that you take the staples out and you just put them back in, because if the fabric's not right now, it's never going to get any better. So once I'm happy, I'm going to start putting in the rest of the staples. So I'm going to pull the fabric outwards from the central staple towards the corner, making sure that it's all flat and I'm happy with how taut the fabric is. And then I'm just going to take my stapler and start popping the staples in. You're going to want to put them quite close together at this point, perhaps about 1 centimetre apart, to make sure that it's holding the fabric in all of the right places. Again, do this on all 4 sides. So now you just need to do the corners. The way I like to do this is to turn my footstool over and then push the fabric over the corner, as you can see here. And now I'm just going to grab my stapler and secure that bit in place. Then I'm going to carefully fold over the flap on each side, starting with one side first. This bit can be tricky, as to make it look nice you want to make sure that both folds are even, and it can be really bulky so it can be hard to get your staple through the fabric. But again, just try your best, and if you don't like how it looks, take your staple out and have a go. After I've done one side, I usually find it easiest to cut off lots of the fabric so it's less bulky and makes it easier for the staple to go through. Again, you're going to want to do this on all 4 corners. Once you've done your corners and you're happy with them, grab your scissors and just cut off all of the excess fabric from the underside of the footstool. Now we're going to grab our fabric for the underside of the footstool. I'm just going to place my footstool on top of the fabric and cut around so that I have the right size. I'm going to leave maybe about 1 centimetre around the edge of my footstool. And then I'm going to take my fabric and making sure that it's positioned evenly in the centre of my footstool. I'm going to fold over the edge. I'm going to take my stapler and pop a staple in on one side of the fabric. Then, making sure that it's straight, I'm going to take my stapler and just staple across the whole edge of the fabric. I'm then going to turn my footstool around and start on the other side. Then I'm going to do the same down the two longer sides of my footstool. The final stage of my footstool is just to fill where the holes are that I drilled earlier, and then I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to cut away some of the fabric around this hole. This just means that none of the fabric will get caught in the legs when I screw them in later. And then I'm going to screw my legs into the bottom of my footstool. And there you have it, your footstool is complete. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please remember to like and subscribe for more video tutorials. And also, please don't forget to check out the link in the description below to visit my website and also for the free patterns for the other tutorials. Thank you.